court ruling from just last week. As you can see, it's from the Ontario Superior Court of Justice, Divisional Court. Ontario teachers suing the government to ban math tests, in this case for teachers. I'm going to read the first few paragraphs because it really explains it well. This is from the ruling. It reads like it's from The Onion or the Babylon Bee or some other satire site, but this is real, people. This isn't some woke student paper in some gender studies class in college. This is what happens when those woke students graduate and become woke lawyers and then become woke judges. This is real. I'm going to read from the ruling. Paragraph 1. The applicants seek judicial review of Ontario's Mathematics Proficiency Test, MPT, a standardized math test that all teacher candidates must pass to become certified as teachers in Ontario. The applicants, the union, seek a declaration that the MPT and the provisions requiring it violate Section 15 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, the Charter. The question on the application is whether the MPT, that's the math test, has a disproportionate adverse impact on entry to the teaching profession for racialized teacher candidates, and if so, whether it can be justified under Section 1 of the Charter. The evidence points to significant disparities in success rates of standardized testing based on race, including statistical evidence of racial disparities with respect to the MPT specifically. The deleterious effect on diversity is somewhat ameliorated by subsequent attempts available to retake the MPT. The MPT infringes Section 15 of the Charter and cannot be justified under Section 1. The respondent, that's the government, has not discharged its burden of showing that the MPT minimally impairs the rights of racialized teacher candidates. There were reasonably available alternatives to the MPT that on their face appear to be less impairing and at least as effective in achieving the goal of improving student achievement in math. These include requiring a minimum number of hours of math instruction or a math course in B.Ed programs, requiring an undergraduate math course as an admission requirement for B.Ed programs, or waiting to see the effect of the other parts of the respondent's four-year math strategy. They are literally arguing that it is against the Charter to require teachers to do well at math, to take a math test before becoming a teacher. It apparently is fine under the Charter of Rights to force people to take an injection or lose their job, to lose their ability to go on airplanes or trains or to go to a restaurant. That's all fine by the Charter. But making math teachers know math, that's discrimination. Now, the government said that making math teachers learn math, is good. But the court dismissed that. Here, I'm going to read from this ruling. I can't top this ruling. Paragraph 44. The respondent, that's the government, proffered the expert evidence of Dr. Kajander, an expert in math pedagogy, who deposes that there is a correlation between teacher competence and confidence in math and student performance. You think? She testified on cross-examination that it is highly desirable to offer more mathematics content in a B.Ed program because the additional support in terms of education and training is the real key to improving teachers' math competence. Dr. Kajander notes that not all universities had or have math courses. She deposes that a key benefit of the MPT, that's the math test, is that it encourages math-avoidant teacher candidates to sign up for a mathematics course, whereas they would simply avoid taking math courses altogether if there were not a bar at the end of the teacher certification process. Could you imagine? Math-avoidant teachers are going to be your kid's math teacher. It sounds sort of reasonable to make them take a math test, which is why the judges ignored it. They care more about being woke than learning math. I'm not kidding. That's what they say. The literature review found evidence that mandatory teacher competency testing impacts the teacher workforce pipeline. I would hope so. Workforce, teacher training, and the diversity of the teacher population. The literature review cited various studies conducted over the past 20 years, which found that mandatory standardized teacher testing has a, quote, serious impact on racial diversity within the teacher pool as follows. Multiple studies have found that the pass rates on common standardized teacher competency tests are significantly lower for people of color than for white applicants. Black and Latinx teacher candidates are much more likely to fail standardized teacher tests than their white peers. The U.S. Praxis test is, more than any other criterion, single-handedly reducing the number of minorities who enter the teaching profession. It goes on. You know it's bad when Canadian judges are using the word Latinx. You know that's not a real word, right? No real Latino uses that word. That's white leftists. That's not even a thing up here in Canada. And although I sympathize with people who don't know math, maybe they shouldn't be teachers then. But mainly, isn't it a bit racist to say that minorities aren't good at math and to try and prove it mathematically and to make broad brush judgments about whole races? Isn't that exactly what racists say? That's an excerpt from my daily show, the Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.